Indian culture also is all about rich colors, and I wanted to show the difference between, you know, whether the textiles downstairs that I've used are indigenous, like the Kampalas and the Adiris. But then when you come up here, you look at more of a line from Zardozi, which is like these rhinestones and sometimes even gold wires that are like you use to create embroidery, and it's all hand stitched. Yeah. And I kind of wanted to come into that moment and showcase that by these rich Swarovski crystals and seeing like this beauty and this glamour and this glimmer, you know, that most individuals that are this color do not get in India, you know. So it's like, why don't we honor them in that light of royalty?
Hello everyone, welcome to Urban Limitrove. I am so pleased to be here chatting with Destinie Adélakun, the award-winning artist, filmmaker, photographer, multi-hyphenate, here at the Clark Center for the Arts in Scarborough. So Destinie, I'm so happy to finally be having this conversation. We've been just kind of chasing each other around for the past almost a year. Yeah. All the way back in Nuit Blanche, all the way at Design TO, and then finally here in Scarborough, exhibiting your artwork. And so can you start us off with a brief introduction about who you are and the different work that you do?
Absolutely, thank you. Thank you for having me here today. Really humbled and feeling so much gratitude to be able to talk about my work. I am a photographer, a multidisciplinary in every aspect of the word. I utilize photography as a medium to showcase other works that I do in terms of sculptures, paintings. I've been really interested in textiles at the moment and working with tie-dyes and learning more about my indigenous Yoruba, which is a tribe that stems from West Africa. So Yoruba arts and sculptures. So that is really what I'm into right now. I am very much driven by Yoruba mythology. I grew up in India, and my time period during that time was very saturated with Indian mythology and my Indian culture. So when I moved to Toronto, that was the first time I actually saw that many people of color in the sense that looked like me. Yeah. So it was a very celebratory moment for me, and I got really excited about hair, and I would, you know, braid my hair in different styles. Like every week I would have a different hairstyle because I was just like, wow, my hair can do all these different things. It was like, I just thought I could just do the two plaits. That was like my staple look for every school photo. But I got really interested in learning about my Blackness because it was so denied while I was living in India. And that's when I learned about African mythologies, and you know, took me in awe. And I wanted to share these stories with my peers, with my diasporic peers. And that's when I started working on the photography essay Daughters of the Diaspora. Like it's more so like an intro to Yoruba Orishas. And Orishas are deities, gods, goddesses, and they're also intertwined with the elements. So I said, wow, instead of going outside and taking these images like by a river or in the forest, I said, how about we create a set design? Because I also come from a background of fashion, I've come from a background of theater as well. So I was really interested in utilizing textiles and fabrics and sculptures to kind of create the set design to give you the feel of what would these, you know, deities look like in modern day, you know, and making it conceptualized in the way that today's new age can understand or can even connect with, you know, some of this old literature that has been denied and been inaccessible for centuries, really. In Yoruba mythology, they say that everyone has their higher conscious, which is called Ori. Ori's literal meaning in English is head. And Obatala is the one who's in charge of everyone's like spiritual state of being, you know. So when you're like not feeling like your best self, or you feel like you're very confused, you don't know what's going on with your life purpose, you essentially pray to Obatala and you pray to your Ori to essentially like help you heal your Ori, cleanse your Ori, to help you understand your purpose and you maintain the path of your destiny. So this Obatala crown kind of like brings you to that depth of Ori, that depth of like knowing your purpose, and like essentially I invite individuals to use the symbol of purpose as they walk through the exhibition. That's why it's at the front of the exhibition. And also Adélakun is my last name, which also means the crown makers. So I thought it'd be a nice way to kind of pay homage to my ancestors as we look at this crown at the entrance of the exhibition.
The theme of your exhibition, Journey of a Day, it's a journey. It's a storyline, and that's something that you like pull through, whether it is through mythology, whether it's through your different cultures and lineages coming together. So can you talk a bit about kind of the inspiration that came about creating this whole exhibition that we have a part of it just exhibited behind us here?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. This residency here at the Clark Center for the Arts gave me an opportunity to curate essentially my own solo exhibition. I've always been in a capacity where I work with a curator, I let them know my ideas and they just take it from there. And all I do is I focus on creating the work. So it was a bit taxing because I'm not essentially a curator, but I did enjoy the experience of creating the experience in the sense of what a day is. A lot of my first early works are the A Day series, which is A Day means crown in Yoruba. I remember it was 2019. I had just moved to Toronto and I wanted to pay homage to my last name. That's when I did a lot of digging and found out that my last name, Adélakun, means the crown makers. And I said, well, this would be a homage to my ancestors, and I'm going to make these crowns reflecting on the orishas. So I have the crown of Oshun, Oya, and so on and so forth. And literally it was within 5 days, I gathered a group of women and we did the shots. And it is something that I just finished exhibiting, I think late last year. But it's got some really great international views as well. I showed it at the North Carolina Seca Gallery as well. That was also my inspiration with making a journey of a day. And there was a crown that I sculpted with the help of some individuals, some beaders in Nigeria. And I made that crown the focal point of the exhibition. So when you enter the exhibition, you see this crown, and I wanted the viewers to take this crown with them to go on a journey. So that's why it's the journey of a day. As we go further down, we've got the Galede, which is the mystical powers of women. It's a masquerade which is performed in Yoruba community, and it's spread all over, throughout Benin, Togo, and also in Nigeria, of course. It is performed to honor the mothers, Iya Inla, which are our ancestral mothers, and also the elderly. And this is a sculptural crown that I created. So Galede essentially has this headdress, and on top of the headdress, they have these beautiful carvings of animals and different figurines, which essentially tells you about or narrates essentially what is happening in that community at that time. So I utilized this crown to talk a little bit about what we went through during the pandemic, and just some of the experiences that the diaspora has had. So I talk about the Black Lives Matters movement, say their names. I have a bunch of newspaper clippings to kind of showcase the time period and signify how, as the Black diaspora, we have been affected. So the bottom floor talks about Daughters of the Diaspora, which I showcased at Nuit Blanche. But I felt that a lot of individuals, because they were large-scale images, and I felt a lot of individuals were just really, taken away by the size of the images, but may have missed some of the details. So therefore, I wanted to showcase that in a gallery setting, but also kind of giving them a background on my own personal ancestral background, in the sense of teaching them a little bit about Yoruba mythology, comparing that to Catholicism. I think Nuit Blanche also kind of helped me understand what kind of artist I wanted to be. And it was a really beautiful journey, and I'm truly appreciative that they gave emerging artists a platform that big to be able to showcase their work. So I'm truly grateful for that.
Yeah, that's what honestly really touched me about your work, both when I was just going through the website looking for it. I was like, wow, first of all, wow, I didn't think that Nuit Blanche would allow something like this. Not something I had seen in other years that I had been. But then when I actually got to the scene, where it was being showcased, like you said, on the harbor front. Literally larger than life, like enormous pieces of like beautiful Black women like illuminated. It was really like, personally, it was very touching. I was there with my friend. We were both like, we're like, whoa. It definitely hit different. It was very beautiful and really exciting. And I'm glad that you were, taking part in this public arts sphere. And I think that's honestly what, public art is supposed to do. I mean, I used to work in like kind of the public art space as well in the sector, and that's the comments that you want to get from people, or at least I imagine as an artist. That's the connections you want people to have to art. It's not just something that you just kind of walk by. It's something that connects you to home, or connects you to yourself in ways, or connects you to other people that you never thought that you could. Because what was really interesting about your piece when it was being exhibited is that you saw people from all walks of life. Like there was these Muskoka chairs, and people were sitting down in front of them taking pictures from like all different cultures. And I was like, wow, what a beautiful moment, both being exhibited, but also the people coming through. So that's very exciting.
Absolutely, thank you. And then we go to the second floor, which it gets really sort of beautiful, but it's also dark. And it talks about my experience in India. I am biracial, I'm half Indian and I'm half Nigerian. And I had this experience of being statusless in India, because at that time I'm about to give away my age a little bit, but it was the early 90s. And at that time, mothers didn't need a passport for their children when they were traveling abroad. So I somehow landed with my grandparents in India, and I was left without a passport because I didn't have any documentation. So when it was time for me to, travel abroad, at that time, my mother and I were supposed to relocate to Abu Dhabi. It took 2 years for me to get a passport, and which ended up being that my mom had to leave me in the care of my grandparents. And even my grandparents, up to this day, they say that that was the most craziest time of their life. And all they really wanted to do was reconnect me to my mother. And I had this journey of being statusless, of being called, the N-word by some of my, Indian peers. And even I recall having these memories of coming home to my grandmother and saying, like, what does this word even mean? Why are they calling me this word? Like, why am I, in this household that's a safe space for me, I'm considered as this Indian little girl, and I know all about the language. Like, I can speak it, write it. Like, how much more Indian do you need me to be for you to just accept me as who I am? But when I went outside, I was Kali. That was it. That's why I called it a derogatory term, which I take it as a word of endearment now, and I use it as my armor, because Kali is also this fierce goddess which went on many wars in Indian mythology. So I reconnected, I kind of like used Kali as my armor and thought about Kali, the goddess, and used that as my armor to really fight the oppression that was happening for me in India at that time.
It's funny because you're saying Kali and the goddess Kali. It's funny, going back in Greek, when you say Kali, it means good. So it's like a reverse, another way of looking at the word and experiencing it. But then something you said that was also very interesting was about, overall, this is a journey, this is your story. But then I think what resonated with me, particularly with your work, when I was like looking at it through the Nuit Blanche website, but also looking at it through the different floors of the exhibition, is that journey, it's very much personal to you, but I think also a journey that resonates with the rest, or at least I imagine it resonates with the rest of us as part of the diaspora or being away from home. So as much as it's a journey, exploring, I guess, your lifestyle, it's also a journey for the audience, being like, what is our own return home? What does that look like? And I can imagine being so young, dealing with these different issues and traveling around the world, what that's like. And that's kind of all of us here. That's Canada. That's Toronto especially. We're just like a modge podge of people from around the world trying to find our way and making home in this tiny, big city all at once. So that's really interesting.
Thank you. I created these painting scrolls. The inspiration really comes from paintings that were painted by royal artists and painters. And I called it like the medieval Tinder, where princes of different dynasties, they would be like, okay, I'm ready to get married. Like, let me see what the girls are saying, in the rest of like the country. So the royal painters would come with like these stacks of scrolls, and they would like open them and be like, okay, what about this one? What about this one? And they would be like these gorgeous royal with gold scrolls with like gold finales that have like peacocks and different things, and they would be embellished in, you know, different types of rhinestones and stuff. And I just remembered how beautiful those things looked, and I kind of wanted to bring light to these women, and also talking about my personal self, and honor darker complexion women and debunk the stigma of South Asian art history. Because if you look at it from a historical standpoint, you don't often see darkest complexion women in South Asian history. So that is what led me to creating the textile piece, which is the quilt, which has silk screening and a little bit of block printing. And the block printing stems from my nostalgia of watching my mother block print bed sheets when we were in India. And that piece, it literally brought me to tears, even as I was looking at my passport stamps and, you know, how much I had to sort of give up, or even my family had to give up to be able to come to this country, which is now our home, which is Canada. So Zeenat Aman is an old school actress. So this is like vintage prints of skin bleaching sort of advertisements that were laid out. And this one is very interesting. I'm just gonna read it out, where it says, "The complexion you wish you were born with."
Wow. Oh no. Oh, no.
Yeah, so that was, and I was like, wow, the complexion you wish you were born with. Okay. So that is what the quilt is about. It's this historical document, and that's where I talk about this here, where it's, you know, hello, my name is Kali, and in Sanskrit it means she who is black. So that is kind of like my armor. I'm utilizing this work as my armor, tapping into the goddess Kali vibes to really share the narrative of Kali, and amongst so many who are probably still, like, you know, who are in India that probably still have to face this derogatory term.
I'm also interested to know from your perspective, why is like public art, especially Toronto, being a place where you have so many public arts? We have Nuit Blanche, the whole public arts festival. You see it everywhere you go. We're here in an art center, but yeah, why is public art so important for cities and the communities that they like represent?
Whilst exploring Black figurative photography, I realized that there was not enough of Black figurative photography in the world of public art. So with that standpoint is how I had wrote my proposal to Nuit Blanche, and was successfully able to showcase Daughters of the Diaspora. And it's interesting because when I pitched it to them, I wanted to do it like in a form of a gallery setting, actually. I said I wanted to rent like one of the like storefronts and to set it up in a whole gallery setting. And I remember very vividly Julie Nagam, who was the curator of Space Between Us work that was at Nuit Blanche last year. She said, why would you want to do that? Why? I see these as being like large pieces, you know, on buildings or like freestanding, but I see them like being larger than life scale. You know, I want to see these pictures blown up. And she said, why would you want to put it in a gallery? And I said, well, I didn't think that would be possible, you know, because again, as being an emerging artist, being an emerging Black woman artist, I felt that I couldn't ask for that. You know, I couldn't even fathom for my mind to take it there, that they would want Black figurative work up on these buildings by Harborfront into, you know, at this magnitude, which is very corporate. That's when I felt really empowered, and I think that was my very empowering moment of wanting to be a public art-based installations. Like even with how I curated Journey of a Day, these pieces are not necessarily up for sale. You know, they're more so here to give you that experience and give you that public art experience, even though it's in a gallery space building, right? And I'm very interested in taking it to forms of, you know, sculptures, but I am very interested in making it Black figurative, because I personally feel that Black artists really thrive when they create work that looks like one thing, but it really is talking more about the other. But I said, why is it that we can't actually have individuals represented like in our truest form? You know, we have all these sculptures of all these various, Eurocentric individuals in the time of history all over Toronto. But why can't we have individuals, that represent Black figurative work, right? Why does it have to be a sculpture of a pig, right? And which there's nothing wrong with that, but why can't I see Black women as sculptures? Why can't I see Black men as sculptures? And so on and so forth. Why can't we talk about Black hair in the form of sculptures, right? So that's what my mission really is, to make Black figurative work a theme of public art and be able to see this work around the continent and further.
I know you are one of the co-founders or founders of the BTA Collective. So do you want to talk a bit more about what that is and how your work connects with that?
Yeah, so BTA is Behind the Arts. It's a collective that my partner Lowel and I co-founded in 2021. I feel like we all kind of had like those pandemic projects, and we kind of like were isolated at home, and we were trying to figure out like, what are we gonna do when all this comes back together, and if it comes back together, right? Because there was like all these different questions. But during this time period, we co-founded Behind the Arts. It is a community arts collective where we are focused on bringing mental health awareness between immigrant and BIPOC communities, specifically in Scarborough. I am a Scarborough girl, and I think that we, as immigrants, we give up so much. And when our family or our parents, we finally get here, they're like, we're gonna make sure that you're set up so that you don't have to struggle as much as we do. Yeah. And we completely get that, but I thought that it was important for us to educate the immigrant population, the diaspora, BIPOC individuals, a little bit more about what the importance of arts in the community and creating various arts programming. So our first event was the Behind the Arts Festival. It was here at the Thompson Memorial Park. Thanks to Toronto Arts Council, we were able to get the Animating Parks funding. So that was our first event. It was a great turnout. We had about 200 people show up, which is not bad for our first one. Yeah. So we had individuals from Scarborough, we had music performances, we did our first BTA photo mural where we asked the community their experience or with mental health, or giving us a one-liner how mental health affects us or our community.
Yeah, I think that's a really important, well, multiple things, strands there, what you said. First of all, that connection between arts and mental health. And then you brought up an interesting point about the discrepancy between the landscape, let's say, of cultural hubs and cultural activities, or access to cultural education across the city, and how that influenced you as well. That's really interesting. But I'm glad you stuck with it and decided to do art, or else you wouldn't be here.
Right. We are also very youth focused, so we did do a couple of youth workshops in the park, and then we did a fall one here at the Clark Center, and that's how I learned about the Clark Center in the first place. We are very interested in doing future programmings and collaborating with other partnerships like Scarborough Arts and East End Arts and so on and so forth. But we are very focused on mental health awareness and debunking that stigma across the communities, especially BIPOC communities.
Well, that being said, cities in general provide quite a number of supports to emerging artists and different collectives, but I guess there's always room for like you said, there's a discrepancy in the landscape of cultural centers or arts activities across the city, but also I imagine a discrepancy in some of the supports that are available to artists, collectives, and just individual artists. So what do you think municipalities should be providing to folks like you and collectives like yours to help grow and hone your craft and connect with more people and bring these experiences beyond, let's say, the downtown?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I would say stop with the budget cuts. We need the arts. Requires all the money that they can get, and I do understand that there are other more pivotal things that folks might feel that requires funding, but I think that especially in high schools, a lot of youth do suffer from these budget cuts, and I think that we need more artists in high schools doing workshops or given an opportunity to teach various different disciplines, because art is changing. And I feel that I am an example of a type of medium that I'm creating on my own, where I utilize photography as a form to showcase all the other mediums that I'm interested in, which took me a really long time. It took me about 5 years to figure that out. And that all stemmed from experimentation. I feel that artists require space to experiment, more spaces, like in-kind spaces, especially artist residencies, especially access to products, supplies, spaces, is really needed for artists to be able to explore, and also to be able to connect with the younger generation and give them the platform to explore, so that it doesn't take them 5 years to figure out what is it that they really want.
But then that being said, what's next for you personally, but also like any other projects you have underway? Let us know.
Yes. I am currently working on a short film installation. I have always loved film as a media to tell stories. It's one of my favorite mediums, actually, because I feel like that's a place where I can really be multidisciplinary and showcase all the different things that I do. I've built a crew of 20 individuals, so it's like the biggest project I've had thus far. It's a 5-minute short film that talks about this masquerade that takes place in Nigeria. It's called Galede, and where men essentially dress like women to honor the elderly women of the community and the spiritual mothers. And it's an experimental dance film, so I'm doing sculptures, I'm doing textiles, it's also a photo essay, and it's all going to be shown at the Market Gallery in end of June. So I'm super excited about that. It's an awakenings, a mentorship through the Toronto History Museums. So again, the City of Toronto has been having my back, so I'm really excited to do this my next venture. Also, I am currently with Black Women Film. I'm doing their producers Big Up residency, which is really helping me kind of understand and navigate how to be a producer. Not necessarily how to be a producer, but the type of producer I want to be, and being able to pitch and working with industry individuals. I feel that they're doing something really magical, especially for Black women in film, because we don't have many areas to really showcase our work. And I feel that film school teaches you one level of skills, but the other part of the skills is actually connecting and being in the industry, meeting individuals, how to pitch your films. So that's something I'm really excited about, especially because the stories that I tell are very focused, are very me-focused. So I feel that I have to be the individual to wear different hats, but then also delegate, which is something that they're helping me with. And I'm super excited about that. And for BTA, we are in the talks with various Scarborough-based organizations in terms of collaborations. So we're looking into doing some youth-based workshops in end of summer and early fall.
Exciting. Okay, so you have a lot on your plate, a lot to look forward to, and I'm excited to see all the different pieces and how they come together. I know they're going to be great. But then that being said, thank you so much, Destiny, for being here and sharing all these different insights and stories. And it's really exciting to see how your journey, the journey of a day, but also your journey personally through your arts practice is like evolving and growing, and all the different things that are coming along. Thank you to the Clark Center for the Arts also for having us here in this beautiful space. So come on down and check out all the different programming, supporting artists like Destiny and others, and in Scarborough. So thank you.
Thank you.